513 theaters, 3,079 screens, a total of 226 million theater attendance annually. And with the emerging popularity of multiplexes, movie theaters became a public-friendly and popular cultural space amongst Koreans. Do you know what was the first theater that sparked Koreans' love for the cinema? I'll tell you about it now. In the year 1912, a two-story brick building that can hold some 1,000 people newly opened as a large-scale movie theater called Woomigwan in Jongno, Seoul. The establishment of Korea's first movie theater was met with a wild response from Koreans. There was even a popular saying that it's a lie to say you have been to Seoul without visiting Woomigwan. But why was Woomigwan so popular? Woomigwan wasn't just a birth of an ordinary theater. It was the first movie theater strictly for a Korean audience. Before we move on, did you know that Seoul had a separate residence zone for Japanese and Koreans during the Japanese colonial period? And movie theaters were no exception. A Japanese theater was in Chungmuro, while the Korean theater was in Jongno. With the opening of Woomigwan in 1912, Dansungsa and Joseon Theater were established in a row. Jongno emerged as the battleground for the three major theaters. Then what kind of movies were screened at Woomigwan in its early days? Woomigwan mostly featured Western films. That's why film interpreters called 변사 had played a critical role. Since they were the stars under the scope, their verbal abilities strictly determined the commercial success of the silent films. Woomigwan's dominant position in the district was challenged by the emergence of Dansungsa. It opened in 1918 with the meaning of fulfilling the wish through unity. A multi-purpose performance hall built in 1907 was newly turned into a movie theater. Here's a crucial question. Who funded the theater? Contrary to Woomigwan, owned and run by the Japanese capital, Dansungsa was the first theater fully funded and operated by a Korean businessman. Moreover, Dansungsa not only screened films, but also produced films itself. The Dansungsa owner and a popular actor at the time jointly produced a film just 1 year after the theater's opening. And their movie released on October 27, 1919. Korea's first ever film, Fight for Justice, was released at Dansungsa. The movie was funded, directed, and starred Korean staff and actors. The first Korean movie. Don't you want to know what it's all about? Titled Fight for Justice, the film portrayed a son who avenges his stepmother, who conspires a plan to greedily take the dead father's fortune. Then what style was the film made in? It took the form of screen and stage play, where actors' live performance was infused with the projection of film sequences. The film received a rave public response. Dansungsa screened the film for a month as it was always packed with people who were astounded by a screen that rolled down from the set, which showed a familiar landscape of Joseon as the performance continued. Tickets priced at 10,000 won were all sold out. Let me check the price at the time. It cost 1 won and 50 jeons to get a ticket to a first-class seat. It was still costly given that a bowl of seolleongtang costs just 10 jeons. People still want to watch films. Interesting, right? Since Fight for Justice was shown for the first time on October 27, 1919, the history of Korean cinema marked its 100th anniversary in 2019. Which means that the century-old history of Korean cinema all started with Dansungsa. Plus the day, October 27th, has become the Film Day.
영화, 기록 영화를 연속 상영해 널리 시민들에게 보여주고 있습니다. 이 영화의 날에는 매주 정기적으로 전국에 배포되는 대한 뉴스 2편과 우리나라의 발전에 관한
From its opening in 1918 to its closure in 2012, Dansungsa lived through the brightest moments of Korean cinema history. Today we talked about how theaters consoled the people throughout the painful periods of the colonial era and the war-derived scars. Although the old theaters vanished in history, the 100 years of Korean cinema lives on. The brilliant moments will be remembered.